Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by thanking the members of the host committee and the people of the city of Miami and the state of Florida. I am very, very pleased that we made the decision to come to Miami. I thank Governor Childs and Lieutenant Governor McKay. And all those who made the case that we should be here. Our hosts have done a tremendous job of hosting this historic event. At this extraordinary moment of opportunity and responsibility, they have made our work easier and, especially last evening, much more enjoyable. The Summit of the Americas has more than fulfilled our expectations. Future generations will look back on the Miami Summit as a moment when the course of history in the Americas changed for the better. We worked hard to arrive at this point. Yesterday, we achieved agreement on the many issues before us. Our talks were lively, open, and wide-ranging. They were filled with a spirit of democracy and mutual respect and a deep determination to increase the jobs and incomes of our people, improve the quality of their lives, and protect their freedoms. Meanwhile, the First Lady's Summit on Children, all of our spouses working together, looking toward the future of our children in this hemisphere, in many ways captured what the spirit of this meeting is all about. For all of our efforts will fall more to the benefit of our children than to our generation. Now, I would like to ask the representatives of each of the major geographical regions of the Americas, the Caribbean, North America, Central America, and South America, to report on the agreements we have forged. In addition, we will hear from the leaders of two dynamic and vital institutions that are serving our hemisphere and that will loom large in our plans for the future, the Inter-American Development Bank and the Organization of American States. Then, President Aristide of Haiti, who embodies our hemisphere's determination to uphold the sovereign will of the people, will speak. Let us begin the plenary.
Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Arthur of Barbados.
President and Mrs. Clinton, Presidents and Prime Ministers of the Americas, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all of the Caribbean here represented, may I take this opportunity to thank President and Mrs. Clinton and the government of the United States for hosting this historic summit of the Americas. We deeply appreciate the splendid arrangements which have been made to make our stay here comfortable, pleasant, and productive. I also wish to pay tribute to the warmth, hospitality, and generosity of the people of Miami. They have truly confirmed that Miami is in every sense a city of the Caribbean. This summit marks a defining moment in the history of the Americas. 10 years ago, such a summit would have been impossible. 5 years ago, it would have been improbable. But today, it is a reality. And it is a reality because for the first time, there's a sense of unity buttressed by a sense of purpose regarding the direction in which this hemisphere should go. In the very finest sense, this summit has presented us with an opportunity to call a real new world into existence in order to redress the imbalances of the old. A new world based on economic cooperation and integration rather than fragmentation and the conflict of the past. A new world based on the freedom of trade and capital movements, supported by the practice of good governance and democracy, and illuminated by a commitment to social justice. A new world so designed as to improve the quality of life, not only of this generation, but generations yet unborn. Our declaration of a partnership for development and prosperity, in its emphasis on economic integration, sustainable development and good government, and in particular, the concept of a free trade area from Alaska to Argentina, constitutes a bold and unique vision for the Americas. The Caribbean shares that vision. However, at the same time, as very small states facing peculiar difficulties, we have a particular perspective within the broader homogeneity. There is now a consensus that the chief vehicles for development are integration and trade. The Caribbean has no reservations in joining in that consensus. Indeed, trade is a matter of life or death for the Caribbean. Ours are among the most open economies in the world, with international trade in many instances being in excess of 50% of our gross domestic product. Our dependence on trade and our experience of integration have convinced us that trade liberalization can indeed be the tide that lifts all boats. These same experiences, however, have taught us that a rapidly rising tide can and does easily overturn small boats, especially small, unbalanced boats. The Caribbean has many small, unbalanced economies. The lessons we have therefore learned is that the freedom of trade needs to be carefully managed. Our challenge, therefore, now is to ensure that as we implement the plan of action and create our hemispheric free trade area, we must put in place measures to ensure that all people share equitably in the benefits. These measures should include, for the very small economies, favorable market access, a longer phase-in period, and the allocation of financial resources in support of integration. Mr. President, we are very pleased about the progress that has been made at this summit to resolve the problems that threaten the future of the Caribbean banana industry. For the microeconomies in the Caribbean, the banana industry is not just the production of a commodity, but it embodies their entire economic culture, and its continued prosperity holds the key to their very survival. Our countries are making every reasonable effort to become competitive and to diversify our economies. In the meanwhile, it is imperative that the market regime for bananas in Europe be safeguarded. Hemispheric solidarity and support for the GATT waiver on the Lomé regime for the trade in bananas, such as has been expressed at this summit, are of fundamental importance to our sub-region. On this matter, it is important that we understand that the course on which the hemisphere is now set poses challenges not only for the coexistence of countries, but for the coexistence of countries and companies, especially in situations where one company may exercise far more economic power than several countries combined. The issue surrounding bananas is therefore a clear test of the resolve of everyone in this hemisphere to make that coexistence between companies and countries possible. The economic development of the Caribbean has always required a substantial flow of external financial resources. A number of Caribbean states are now constrained in our development by the large part of our foreign exchange earnings, which is preempted for external debt service payments. Much of our debt is to the multilateral financial institutions. Accordingly, Caribbean countries have hardly benefited from the debt reduction initiatives such as the Baker and Brady plans, which helped a number of the larger countries in this hemisphere in the 1980s. The rescheduling of the debt owed by the Caribbean countries to the multilateral financial institutions would have a beneficial impact on our sub-region immediately. Rescheduling makes far more sense than the present policy of making new loans to assist such countries in meeting their debt service obligations on earlier loans. In implementing our plan of action, therefore, the Caribbean looks forward to hemispheric support on this critical issue. We are also pleased that the plan of action has been designed to provide stimulation for our major export sectors. Tourism is the biggest and the fastest growing industry, and one that is absolutely vital to the economic health of the Caribbean. Our sub-region offers attractions of the greatest beauty and diversity in the world. The stimulation of tourism to the Caribbean is therefore the single most effective action that can be taken for the prosperity of our sub-region. However, while tourism provides the best prospect for growth in many of our islands, we must ensure that its development is managed in a sustainable manner. The Caribbean contains the largest concentration of small island states of any sub-region in the world. These states have very fragile ecosystems. As a result, our survival depends in large measure on our ability to undertake sustainable development. That is, development that meets the needs of our present generation without jeopardizing the welfare of generations to come. The Earth Summit in Rio in 1992 recognized the extreme vulnerability of small island developing states. As a result, a United Nations Global Conference on the Sustainable Development of Small Island Developing States was held in my country earlier this year. That global conference devised a wide-ranging program of action for easing the sustainable development of small island developing countries. We are therefore happy with the strong hemispheric support for the program in this plan of action, and we trust that this support will galvanize the international community into action on this critical matter. The Caribbean Sea is the center of our sub-region's ecosystem. It is our most precious natural heritage and our most valuable economic asset. Unfortunately, it faces severe environmental threats from a variety of sources. Now is the time to have the Caribbean declared internationally a protected habitat and a zone for the sustainable development of the small island developing states therein. Sustainable development must also involve our most important resource, our people. An educated citizenry exercising their essential freedoms within a strong civil society must be the bedrock of democracy. We are therefore encouraged by the emphasis placed on human resource development in the Declaration and the Plan of Action. And we now urge that resources be provided for the education and training of our young people and for programs of cooperation amongst our universities and colleges. We, in the more established democracies, tend to take for granted our parliaments, the rule of law, our judiciary, our civil service, our trade unions, and our police forces. In countries where these institutions are weak, corrupt, or non-existent, democracy falters. Where there are strong, democracy flourishes. We in the Caribbean community, in keeping with our democratic history and in furtherance of the ideals we uphold, have developed a charter of civil society which reiterates the commitment of our governments to fundamental human rights and freedoms and to the mechanisms of good governance. We hope that when the Charter is promulgated, it can become a model for this hemisphere. We truly welcome the restoration of democracy in our sister state of Haiti. We truly appreciate the strong leadership that President Clinton exercised in helping to remove those who had usurped power in that state. This hemisphere now has an equal responsibility to lead the international community in putting in place a sustained program for the reconstruction and development of the economy of Haiti and the building of strong civil institutions in that society. We in the Caribbean are prepared and anxious to play our part in that process. Mr. President, the Caribbean is happy to join in our new partnership for development and prosperity. We regard the initiatives that have been taken at this summit to prepare a plan of action for the development of this hemisphere as the start of a new process of hemispheric cooperation rather than its culmination. As small countries, we have very real difficulties with which to contend. If our partnership is to be characterized by equity, full account must therefore be taken of the unique characteristics of the Caribbean. The Caribbean poet, Derek Walcott, in his speech accepting the Nobel Prize, had these cautionary words to say. He said, "The Caribbean is not an idol, not to its natives. They draw their working strength from it organically, like trees, like the sea almond, or the spice laurels of the heights. A morning could come in which governments may ask, what happened not merely to the forests and the bays, but to a whole people? Our mission in joining in this partnership is to ensure that the morning of which Walcott despaired may never come to the Caribbean. The Caribbean, mingling as it does the cultural legacies of Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas, is the epitome of New World civilization. It is therefore not perhaps coincidental, and may even have been prophetic, that Simón Bolívar had some of his greatest visions for this hemisphere while he was in the Caribbean. In his famous letter from Jamaica, he conceived of, quote, an America fashioned into the greatest nation in the world, greatest not so much by virtue of her area and wealth as by her freedom and her glory. Yet in the same letter, he wisely cautioned that, quote, the unions of the Americas will come about by sensible planning and well-directed actions rather than by divine magic. Mr. President, we are possibly on the threshold of Bolivar's dream here in Miami. Let us therefore go forward in that spirit from this summit of the Americas, this summit of hope. I thank you.
Great job.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Cedillo of the United Mexican States.
Excelentísimo señor William Clinton, presidente de los Estados Unidos de América, excelentísimos jefes de Estado y de Gobierno del continente americano, señoras y señores, nuestras reflexiones acerca del presente y el futuro de las relaciones hemisféricas han sido muy fructíferas y nos han permitido llegar a compromisos claros. Confirmamos que a través de los procesos de cambio en nuestros países se abren nuevas oportunidades de armonía y desarrollo. Estamos ahora mejor preparados para construir una nueva etapa de nuestra historia. Nos proponemos intensificar este diálogo surgido de la expansión de la democracia a fin de que prevalezcan los valores que profesamos. Aprovecharemos con eficacia la oportunidad impensable hace apenas una década de transformar los mecanismos de cooperación e intercambio. Por eso, impulsaremos una dinámica comercial y financiera sin precedente en nuestra historia. Tenemos la certeza de que
We
sobre
are
estas
certain
bases
that on
se
these
ampliarán las
bases we
vías
will be
para
able to
superar
broaden
los
the
viejos
ways
y
in
los
which to
nuevos
overcome
desafíos
the old
de la
and new
pobreza,
challenges
la
of
defensa de los
poverty,
derechos
the
y la
defense
dignidad
of rights
y la
and
preservación
human
de la
dignity
naturaleza.
and the conservation
La
of
agenda que nos
nature.
ha ocupado parte del respeto a
The
la
agenda
soberanía
that we have
y la
dealt with
defensa de la diversidad de
has
nuestras
risen
naciones.
from the defense of
Ese
our
respeto
sovereignty and our
alienta
nations,
nuestra
and that
convicción
respect
compartida
is what
en favor de la
inspires our
democracia.
collective
De ahí
position in
que
favor of
asumimos el
democracy.
compromiso
We have
de
therefore
fortalecer las
taken on the
instituciones
commitment of
y las
strengthening
prácticas
institutions
democráticas
and
en
democratic
cada una de
practices
nuestras
in each
naciones.
one of our nations.
Ante el reto económico de
Faced
este
with
fin
the
de
economic
siglo,
challenge of
nos
this end of
hemos
the century,
comprometido
we have
a
taken on the
lograr el
commitment
libre comercio
to achieve
internacional
international
en todo el
free trade
continente.
throughout the
Nos
continent.
hemos incluso
We
fijado
have, in
una
fact,
fecha para
set
concluir
a
las
date
negociaciones
to conclude
correspondientes.
the corresponding
Ese
negotiations.
objetivo
That
demanda ahora
goal
como
now
metas
requires,
intermedias
as
el
intermediate
acelerar la
objectives,
ratificación
the
de
acceleration
la
of
ronda Uruguay del
ratification
GATT,
of the Uruguay round of
continuar la
GATT,
negociación
to
de acuerdos
continue
individuales y
negotiation
subregionales
of
que afiancen
sub-regional
la
and
apertura de
bilateral agreements
mercados
that will
y
allow us to
fomentar
broaden
el
markets
establecimiento
and
de
to
reglas
foster the
claras y
establishment
sencillas
of clear and
para el
simple
intercambio
rules
hemisférico.
for hemispheric
El
exchange.
comercio libre y equitativo
Free
es un
and
instrumento
fair
formidable
trade is a
para el
formidable
desarrollo que
instrument
exigen
for the
y merecen
development
nuestros pueblos.
required and
Hoy,
deserved by
el
our
desarrollo al
peoples.
que aspiramos
Today, the
se
development
funda
we
en un
wish for
crecimiento
is
económico
based
sostenido,
on sustained
ajeno a
economic growth,
populismos,
which is foreign to
capaz
any
de
form of
distribuir con
populism,
equidad sus
which is able to
beneficios,
fairly
mejor
distribute
preparado
wealth
para
in a
combatir la
better
pobreza
way,
y respetuoso
in a better
del medio
situation
ambiente
to
y los
fight
recursos
poverty,
naturales.
respectful all the time
Nuestros
of
países
the
están
environment.
comprobando las ventajas de alentar
Our
el
nations
libre
are seeing the
comercio.
advantages of
Los
fostering
acuerdos de
free
libre
trade.
comercio
The free trade
establecidos
agreements that have been
impulsan ya
established
el avance y
already
han comenzado a
promote
generar más fuentes de
progress
empleo.
and have already generated more
Crecer y
jobs.
crear empleos
Growth
es
and the creation of jobs is of
particularmente
special
para que se moderen
importance
las
in order
migraciones
to
de
moderate
quienes buscan
migratory movements of
oportunidades.
those who seek
Si bien
opportunities.
reconocemos que
Although
los
we
flujos
recognize
migratorios
that
han
migratory
contribuido
flows
a
have
enriquecer la
contributed
diversidad
to
cultural
enriching the
que es
cultural
distintiva de
diversity,
nuestro
which
hemisferio.
is the hallmark
Al
of our
disminuir la
hemisphere.
migración, al disminuir la migración,
By
se disiparán los
decreasing
temores
migration,
infundados
we will
que
do away
desembocan
with the
en la
unfounded
afectación de
fears
derechos humanos y
that have
laborales
to do
de los
with the
migrantes.
human rights and labor
Nos une
rights
la
of migrants.
convicción
We are
de que
united
nuestro
in the
mayor
conviction
deber
that our
histórico y
major
nuestra más grave
historical
responsabilidad
duty and
es
our
combatir la
most serious
pobreza.
responsibility is
Nuestro
fighting against
compromiso
poverty.
es
Our
particularmente
commitment
profundo
is
con las
especially
comunidades
profound in the
indígenas de
case of
nuestros
the
países,
indigenous
dadas
populations
las
of our
condiciones
countries,
de miseria y
given
atraso
the conditions
que
of
todavía
misery
las
and
afectan.
backwardness which affect them.
Asimismo, debemos intensificar
Likewise, we
nuestros
need to
esfuerzos
intensify
para
our
lograr la
efforts
ampliación
in order
universal
to be
y
able
sin
to
distingos
universally
de la educación básica,
broaden
así
basic
como
education
fomentar la
for all,
capacitación
as
para el
well as to
trabajo
foster
e
training
impulsar
for
la
jobs
educación para los
and
adultos.
promote adult
La
education.
es un derecho fundamental
Education
de todo
is a
ser humano,
fundamental right
un
for
medio
all human
extraordinario
beings,
para
an
desarrollar las
extraordinary
aptitudes de
measure
hombres y mujeres
means in which
y
we
romper
can
el
expand the
círculo
abilities
vicioso
of
de la
men
pobreza.
and women and
Además,
break the vicious
la
cycle of
educación
poverty.
constituye
Moreover,
uno de los
education
ámbitos
is
de
one
mayor
of the
potencial
spheres that
para la
provide the
cooperación
greatest potential
internacional.
for international
También hemos
cooperation.
convenido sumar esfuerzos
We have also
como nunca
agreed
antes
to redouble our efforts as never before to fight the threat of drug trafficking, which threatens freedom, legal order, and the security of our nations. The activities of each country to eradicate drug trafficking are absolutely necessary and not renounceable, but international cooperation is an indispensable tool. This will be the best legacy of security, safety, and health for those generations which will begin the 21st century. Most excellent leaders, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to the wonderful initiative of President Clinton and the hospitality of the city of Miami, we have been able to hold discussions and conclude that America has the will and the instruments for peace, progress, and cooperation required by the new millennium. We have the political and economic consensus necessary to move forward together towards a horizon of welfare for our peoples. We have the enormous wealth of our diversity and the firm determination of uniting our capacities. We conclude this summit sure of the fact that the values that unite us today will be the base for our contribution to our hemisphere and the prosperity of mankind. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Figueres of the Republic of Costa Rica.
Amigas y amigos,
Friends,
saludo en nombre de Centroamérica
on
a
behalf
los
of
señores
Central
y señoras
America, I
presidentes y jefes de
the
gobierno de
presidents,
nuestro
chiefs
hemisferio.
of state, heads of government of this hemisphere.
Es sin duda un
This
extraordinario
is
encuentro de
unquestionably an
voluntades y de
extraordinary
aspiraciones,
encounter of
de
wills
visiones
and
comunes
aspirations, of
sobre el
shared
futuro
visions
que deseamos
for the
construir.
future we wish to build.
Felicito al presidente
I
Clinton
congratulate President
por la
Clinton
feliz iniciativa
on
de
this very
invitarnos a esta cita
fortunate
histórica.
initiative to invite
Más
us
de
to this
3
historic
décadas
event
después de la reunión de
over
Punta del Este.
almost 3 decades after
Si en
the
aquella
historic meeting at
oportunidad
Punta
los
del
presidentes
Este,
de América
at which time the
pensaron en un
presidents of
hemisferio
America could not
unido por la
conceive of
Alianza
a
para el
hemisphere
Progreso,
entirely
en esta
united by the
nos
Alliance
reunimos
for
para
Progress, and
constituir
today we meet
una
to
asociación
build
para el
a
desarrollo y la
partnership
prosperidad,
for development and
basada en la
prosperity,
democracia,
founded
la inversión
on
social,
democracy,
el libre
investment in
comercio
society,
y el
free
desarrollo
trade,
sostenible.
and sustainable development.
Esta tarde dejaré esta familia
This afternoon,
para
I will
regresar a mi país,
leave this
que por
distinguished
cierto ya
family
mucha
to
falta
return
me
to
hace,
my country, which I
y
miss
reunirme como
greatly,
todos los domingos
and meet
con
again
mi
as
otra
I do
familia.
every Sunday with my other family.
Habrán 3 jóvenes
There will be 3
que
young
me
people
pregunten
who will ask
si
me
valió la pena el esfuerzo.
whether the effort was
Uno de
worth
ellos
it.
será mi abuelo,
One will be my
que cumple 100
grandfather,
años,
who will be 100
porque se
years
es
old,
joven mientras se
because
tengan
one
más
is young
ilusiones que
as long as
recuerdos.
one has more hopes than memories.
Y los otros serán mis hijos.
The others will be my
Yo les
sons.
diré
And
con
I
la
will tell
conciencia
them
tranquila
with a clear conscience, yes,
que valió la pena. Que
it
valió la
was
pena
worth it.
reunirse
It was,
con esta otra
it was
familia.
worth meeting with this other family.
Y compartiré con ellos
I will share
que
with
hemos
them
avanzado acá
the
en
news that we have
4
made
ejes
progress here on
fundamentales.
4 pivotal fronts.
Hemos avanzado con
We
nuestra
have
voluntad
moved forward
de
in
una simple
our
apertura económica
resolve toward
hacia
an
una
economic, from mere
integración
economic opening
inteligente
to
con
an
la economía
intelligent
mundial.
integration with the world economy.
Me complace el reconocimiento que esta cumbre ha hecho
I am
del
pleased with
comercio,
this summit's
la
recognition
inversión y la
of trade,
ampliación de los
investment,
mercados
and
regionales
broadening of
como
regional
motores
markets
del
as the
desarrollo.
driving force of
Sin libre
development.
comercio,
without free
sin un
trade,
equitativo acceso de
without
nuestras
equitable
economías
access
a los
of
mercados
our
mundiales
economies
en
to the
condiciones
world
adecuadas
economy on
y tomando
proper
en cuenta los diversos
conditions
grados
and
de
taking into
desarrollo
account the
de
varying
nuestros
degrees of
países,
development
no
of
es
our
posible que
countries,
nuestros pueblos
it is not
disfruten
possible
de los
for our
beneficios del
nations to
proceso.
enjoy the benefits of that
En ese
process.
sentido, los
In
centroamericanos
that
consideramos
sense,
que el libre
we, the
comercio
people of Central America,
es por
believe that free
imperativo
trade
histórico
is,
un derecho
by
y no
historic
una
imperative,
graciosa
a right
concesión
and
de
not
los
a
estados
gracious
más
or generous
poderosos.
concession of the more
Grave
powerful
sería
states.
Grave sería que,
It would be
alegando el
serious
principio de
indeed
la igualdad de
if, while
oportunidades
invoking the
para
principle of
todos,
equal
los
opportunity for
países
all,
pequeños
at the same
nos
time these
viésemos
small nations
prisioneros
were to
de un
be
sistema
held
en
hostage
realidad
to a system
discriminatorio
which is
que,
indeed
lejos de
discriminatory, which far
nos
from
imponga
helping
onerosas
us
condiciones
imposes
para el
onerous
ingreso de nuestros
conditions for the
productos
entry of
a
our
sus
products
mercados
into the
y
larger
reduzca
markets
nuestros
while
márgenes
reducing
de
our
competitividad.
margins of
En ese
competitiveness.
sentido, es que hemos avanzado en dos aspectos
Thus, we have moved
fundamentales
forward on two
al
key
declarar el
issues in
2005
declaring the
como
year
año para un
2005 as a
unido
year
por el
for
comercio,
a hemisphere united
respetando
by trade,
las necesidades
while
diferentes
respecting
y los
the
distintos
diverse
puntos de
needs and
partida
diverse
de cada una de las
beginning
economías
points of each of the
de nuestros
economies
países,
in this hemisphere,
ordenando esta culminación en el 2005 mediante un
reaching this
adecuado
culmination in the year
proceso
2005 through a
de
proper
acuerdos
and
mutuos
orderly
y
process of
convergentes.
mutual agreements.
Hemos avanzado en un segundo eje
We have moved
para
forward on
pasar de
another
una
front
sociedad
to move
dividida
beyond
por la
a
pobreza
society divided by
hacia una
poverty
sociedad
to a society
integrada por las oportunidades
united by
para nuestras
opportunity
personas y
for
nuestros
all
pueblos.
people.
Así como hemos derrotado la guerra,
As we have
nos preparamos para derrotar
moved
la
beyond
pobreza.
war, now we
La llegada de la
prepare
paz
to defeat
debe
poverty
acompañarse de una mayor
war
inversión social.
for
Los
against
recursos
poverty.
que antes consumían las armas
Resources
hoy deben
previously
dirigirse
consumed
a la
by
salud,
weapons must
a la
now be
educación
directed
de
to
nuestros
health,
niños
the
y
education
nuestras
of our
niñas,
children,
de nuestros jóvenes
of our young
y de
people,
nuestras mujeres.
and our women.
En la conferencia de presidentes de
At the
Centroamérica,
Conference of Central
Paz y
American
Desarrollo,
Presidents, Peace
convocada
and
en Honduras,
Development, which was convened in Honduras,
Centroamérica
in
le
Central
mostró al
America,
mundo nuestra
Central America
determinación
showed the
de
world
alcanzar
its
ambiciosas
determination
metas en estos
to
campos
strive for
como
ambitious goals
elementos
in
de la
those fields as a
sostenibilidad
component
y
of
la
the
democracia
sustainability
y nuestras
of
aspiraciones por
democracy
construir
and our
sociedades
aspiration
más
to build
justas,
societies
más
that are fairer,
equitativas
more
y más
equitable,
solidarias.
and that
Hoy
have greater
nos
solidarity.
unimos en esas justas
Today,
aspiraciones a todos
We
nuestros
join in
pueblos
those just
hermanos
aspirations
del
with
hemisferio.
all of the sister nations of this hemisphere.
Hemos avanzado también sobre un tercer
We
eje de
have
acción,
moved forward also
el
in
de
another
avanzar de una
area,
democracia de una democracia
progress
representativa
toward
hacia una democracia
representative democracy,
participativa.
democracy in which all participate.
Por más de una década,
For
Centroamérica
more than a
se vio
decade,
envuelta en la
Central
violencia.
America was
Hoy,
torn by
Todo
violence,
aquel
and
dolor ha
today
sido sustituido por el optimismo de pueblos
that suffering
que han
has been
trocado la
replaced by the
guerra
hope
en
of our
reconciliación,
peoples who have
la
traded war for
desconfianza en
reconciliation,
fe
distrust
y el miedo
for faith,
en
and
alegría
fear
de
for
vivir en
the
paz.
joy of living in peace.
Hemos dejado atrás el
We have
tiempo
left
oscuro de la
behind
guerra
the dark
para dar
times of
paso
war
al luminoso
to step
horizonte
into
de la
the
democracia.
luminous horizon of
centroamericanos
democracy.
Le pedimos a todos ustedes
We, the people
que
of
nos
Central America,
acompañen en un
ask
ruego
all
muy
of you
especial
to
para
accompany
que
us in a
en
very
Guatemala,
special
mientras no se llegue
attempt
a firmar la paz
in
que
Guatemala
esperamos que
until
sea
the
bien
peace
pronto,
is affirmed, which we
podamos
hope
ir
will be
a
soon,
un cese del
that
fuego
we can have
para que
at
pasen
least a
una feliz
ceasefire
Navidad.
so that they will have a happy Christmas.
Nuestra experiencia en Centroamérica nos permite
Our
afirmar
experience in Central
que no hay
America allows
democracia
us
sin
to
respeto
say
a los
that there
derechos
can be no
humanos,
democracy
sin
without the
elecciones
observance of
libres y
human rights,
transparentes,
without free
sin
and
equidad
transparent
económica
elections,
y
without
social
economic and
y
social
sin
fairness,
respeto
and
por la
without
naturaleza.
respect for nature. We have learned from our own past that to grow in democracy, corruption must be uprooted. Civil society's role in the decision-making process must be larger. We must combat discrimination in all its forms and strengthen democratic institutions, in particular those that ensure fair and equal treatment before the law. We have learned from our past that peace must be built and strengthened day by day, and to do this, we must have states that are ever more efficient, more strategically focused, more expeditious, and more reconciled. The last area in which we have made progress is to move beyond the past models of development that we have pursued to a new model of sustainable development. If in the past we were divided in our struggle, today we join together in an alliance for sustainable development, which is unprecedented in any other region of the world. It is an open alliance, the Central American Alliance, that seeks partners, as we agreed yesterday and in the paper we signed with the United States of America.
La Alianza para el Desarrollo Sostenible es una novedosa iniciativa dirigida a consolidar a Centroamérica como región comprometida con un modelo integral de progreso humano. Es un esfuerzo de 7 estados por dotar a sus ciudadanos y ciudadanas de un bienestar que concilia el crecimiento económico con la equidad y la solidaridad.
Fairness and solidarity.
Una visión de futuro,
it is a vision
como
for the future,
conjunto de acciones específicas
and a package of specific measures that will help us
con todos ustedes
to
y otros
implement
actores de la
together with
comunidad
you and other members of the international community
y mediano plazo.
An agenda for action in the short and medium term.
Así como el libre comercio es el motor del desarrollo, la defensa y uso racional de nuestro patrimonio natural es garantía de su sostenibilidad. No es concebible la construcción de sociedades más democráticas y justas si estas no tienen como componente prioritario el garantizarle a cada hombre y a cada mujer mejores condiciones de vida que necesariamente dependerán de su derecho a disfrutar de un medio ambiente sano. Los pueblos de Centroamérica hemos optado por la naturaleza. Poseedores de una extraordinaria biodiversidad, hemos decidido poner al servicio de nuestras gentes toda la riqueza biológica con que la providencia nos ha bendecido. Esto significa no solo realizar un enorme esfuerzo político que hemos expresado en Alianza para el Desarrollo Sostenible, sino y fundamentalmente convertir esa voluntad en una verdadera cultura de respeto por los recursos naturales y por el medio ambiente. In my closing remarks, I wish to share with you a thought of Robert Kennedy, which I borrowed from Josie, my wife's speech yesterday, and which reflects the atmosphere of a new era of work and cooperation. He said, and I quote, "The gross national product does not take into account the health of our children, nor the quality of their education or their joy in playing. It does not include the beauty of our poetry, nor the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debates, or the integrity of our public officers. It does not measure our mental capacity, our compassion, or our devotion to our country. In a few words, it measures everything except everything that makes life worth living." Este espíritu, amigas y amigos, es el espíritu que debe impregnar el proceso que aquí hemos continuado para construir finalmente la patria grande de Bolívar. Gracias.
Great country aspired to by Bolívar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Franco of the Federative Republic of Brazil.
Senhor Presidente Clinton,
Mr. President Clinton, Mr. Vice President Gore,
senhoras e senhores chefes de Estado e de governo,
Chiefs of State, Heads of Government, Mr. President-elect of Brazil, ladies and gentlemen,
a riqueza do intercâmbio de
the
ideias
richness of the exchange of ideas of these 2 days
demonstra a vitalidade
demonstrates the vitality and the vigor of the cultural and historic roots that we share as we reaffirm the values that mark the Americas as a unique place. We are certain that we will find new avenues of understanding and closer relations. We certainly have improved the ties among our nations. We have identified areas of priority attention where we will increase cooperation among all of us. We have devised guidelines for that cooperation. The decisions that we will make regarding final documents signed by leaders democratically elected and holding the confidence of their nations. All of our conversations were free of recriminations and complaints, and these are certainly all signs of a new era. Democracy will continue to mature, to flourish, to bear fruit ever more vigorously in our societies. Every inhabitant in this region will exercise the right of citizenship in the full enjoyment of individual rights. Our nations will feel their freedom is protected, will be better understood by governments, and play a more active role in administration of society. This arises from the diversity among the nations of this hemisphere, and we have agreed to greatly value this diversity. Our societies at all levels and in all regions should enjoy a standard of well-being which is deserved by our peoples, overcoming the inequalities among our countries and within our countries. We are determined to work for development without asking for assistance and without confrontation, which at times in the past hindered our mutual understanding. We cannot allow there to be among us those left out of progress and prosperity. The minority also deserve a better standard of living, and we must make marked changes in attitudes as well as conduct in our society for which governments can provide orientation and support, both in the developed countries and in the developing countries. The social fabric will be strengthened through the full inclusion of women in the process of production on an equal footing.
Sua contribuição
Their contribution to the organization of the life of society is increasingly important, as most families are today headed and supported financially by women. In the poorest parts of society, the challenges faced by the mothers of family are very great, as they have to raise children and adolescents alone, and the future holds very little hope for them. Ladies and gentlemen, the most efficient instruments for the achievement of development are the freedom of trade stimulated by the forces of regional integration, the various processes now underway, and others being formed seek to strengthen our integration processes so that in the not distant future we will achieve a free trade area in this part of the world. Our hemisphere is one of peace. Let us renew here our commitment to making it also one of well-being and social justice. In Latin America, we take great pride in our achievements and accomplishments of the last decade, notwithstanding the strong internal and external challenges which were frequently unfavorable to our aspirations. It is remarkable to see the process of change in our countries, both in terms of the achievements of democratic institutions and the opening and stabilization of our economies. In our peaceful coexistence, we have one of our dearest postulates. Latin America is today one of the most demilitarized regions of the world, with minimal spending on arms. We are one of the most heavily populated areas of the world, but we have no nuclear arms. This circumstance gives us special credibility in our access to advanced technology, which is so crucial to our development. We have accumulated an enviable institutional legacy which foments understanding and cooperation. Mercosur and the Andean Pact are consolidated forms of integration, and there are ongoing forms of integration for the Caribbean and Central America. Our accomplishments achieved with the proper interlocutors in the international community are the result of smooth and cooperative dialogue with other regions of the world, in particular through the Rio Group. It is through this that we have shown our ability to be creative, to be united and flexible, to stand together, to include in our Declaration of Principles and in the Plan of Action ideas and initiatives that will enrich this region of Latin America, and as Latin Americans, ensuring the historic dimension of this meeting. We signed on this date a commitment to development and prosperity in the Americas. There is much that could be done based on the guidelines agreed to. We are opening up political dialogue grounded in a renewed vision of cooperation among our nations. We usher in a lasting era of peace and understanding, and we hope it will be marked by future summits that will be held at closer intervals. This date marks the beginning of the realization of a long-standing aspiration and promise that the Americas recognize their brotherhood, their inherent brotherhood, and walk together to a future of peace, equity, and world peace. It is to achieve this objective. To achieve this objective, we need not only the work of our governments. Our societies are the principal force to achieve this goal. Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President Clinton, Mr. Vice President Gore.
Ladies and gentlemen, Enrique Iglesias, President of the Inter-American Development Bank.
Señor Presidente Clinton,
President Clinton,
señor Vicepresidente Gore,
Vice President Gore,
señores presidentes, señores
Presidents,
jefes de gobierno,
heads of government,
señor Presidente electo,
President-elect,
señoras y señores,
ladies and gentlemen,
quiero comenzar mis palabras
I want to begin my
agradeciendo muy
words by
sinceramente
very sincerely
el honor
thanking
que se le dispensa al Banco
the
Interamericano y al
thanking
que
you
habla
for the honor
de poder
given to
formular
the Inter-American
algunos breves
Development Bank
comentarios
in my person
al cierre de esta
and being
importante
able to make a few
e histórica
statements at the
cumbre.
close of this very important and
Quisiera
historic
primero
summit.
felicitar al
First
presidente
of all, I'd
Clinton
like to
por esta
congratulate
iniciativa
President Clinton
y lo
on this
hago
initiative, and
desde
I
la
do so
perspectiva de quien
from the
tuvo
perspective of
el
one
privilegio de
who had the
integrar la
privilege of
delegación
being
de su
part
país
of the
a la
delegation of
reunión de
his
Punta del
country
Este
at the Punta
en
del Este meeting back in
1967,
1967,
lo que me da con la perspectiva
which
de una
provides me with a
generación de
perspective
distancia
of an entire generation,
comprender quizá
and I'm able to understand
mucha
after that span
perspectiva
of time, I believe,
la oportunidad de esta
the
reunión, la diferencia de esta
timeliness
reunión
of this
y
meeting,
lo que es
the
más
differences at
importante,
this meeting, and more
la
importantly,
necesidad de poner en
the
marcha lo
need
que en ella se ha
to be able
acordado.
to implement what's been agreed
Está aquí
to here.
presente otra América Latina,
We have here a different Latin
democrática,
America. It's
respetuosa de las
democratic,
libertades y de los
respectful
derechos
of
individuales,
freedoms and individual
cosechando
rights,
los frutos de un largo y
harvesting the
doloroso
fruits of
proceso
a
de
long
ajuste,
and painful
luego de una
adjustment
década
process
perdida,
after a lost decade,
abriéndose al mundo,
opening itself up to the
reformando las
world,
instituciones públicas,
reforming its public
transformando la
institutions,
empresa
transforming
y
enterprises,
procurando conquistar la
and
modernidad, sentándose a esta mesa de
achieving
negociaciones con madurez y con
a
pragmatismo.
state of
Es otra
modernness
América Latina.
with pragmatism. This is a different Latin America.
El momento no podía ser tampoco más oportuno.
It could
Los
not have
países de
been a more
América del
timely
Norte
moment.
descubren
The
también
countries of North America
que
are
esta
also
vigorosa
discovering
región,
that this vigorous
ya
region,
uno de los mercados
which is
emergentes
already one of the
más
emerging
dinámicos del
markets
mundo,
with
es
most
también
dynamism in the
confiable
world, is also
y es
trustworthy,
atractiva
and it
y
is
que reditúa la
attractive,
cooperación recibida
and it
con beneficios
gives
palpables para el
profits
empleo,
to
las
those who
exportaciones
invest in
y las
employment,
inversiones en estos
exports, and
países.
imports in these
No
countries.
aprovechar esta oportunidad
Not
sería
taking
un error
advantage
histórico
of this
y eso es lo que
opportunity would
está
be an historical
precisamente
mistake, and that
tratando de
precisely
lograrse en
is
esta
what we are
oportunidad
trying to
a
achieve at this
través de un nuevo
time
diálogo
through a
que
new
era
dialogue
oportuno y
which
urgente
was
retomar.
timely and
El
urgent.
diálogo de ayer no es tampoco el diálogo
Yesterday's
de hoy.
dialogue is not the
América
dialogue
Latina
of
no
today
está
either.
reiterando
Latin
viejas
America
demandas
is not
conocidas de
repeating
asistencia.
the old demands for
ofreciendo
assistance that we've heard
oportunidades de
heretofore. It is
progreso compartido.
offering opportunities for shared
Esta es
progress.
La faceta más significativa y
This is the most
fascinante de este
significant
encuentro
and
histórico,
fascinating
donde
part of
confluyen
this
los
historical
parámetros
meeting where we
de
have
un
a
mundo de la
confluence of the
posguerra
parameters of the
con la madurez
post-war world
política y económica
and
de
the
América
economic
Latina,
and political
región que
maturity
está
of Latin
viviendo una
America, a
auténtica
region that
renovación
is truly
silenciosa
going through a
y el
silent
redescubrimiento por
revolution
Norteamérica
and the
de la
discovery
nueva
by North
relación de
America
oportunidades
of the
en el
new
hemisferio.
relationships for opportunity
Pero
in this
esta es también
hemisphere.
la hora
But this is
de asumir
also
ante la
the
historia
time
la
to
oportunidad
assume before
de
history
responder a
the
la gran deuda
opportunity of
social de América
responding to the
Latina,
major
a
social
los
debt of Latin
viejos
America,
problemas de
to
pobreza
the
crítica y
old problems of dire
que
poverty,
si antes eran deseables de resolver,
which were
hoy son
desirable
deseables y
to resolve in
posibles,
the past, but
porque se
today they are
basan en
almost
situaciones
impossible because they're
económicas
based
sólidas
on
como la que están
solid
procurando lograr
economic
estos países.
possibilities that we
El
see
Banco
in all these
Interamericano como
countries.
institución
The
financiera de
Inter-American
la
Bank
región
as the institution
está comprometida,
the
y esa es
financial
la misión
institution
que
in
me
this
traen
region
estas
is committed,
palabras,
and that is the
a
mission that brings me
responder
to
con
say
todos
these
sus
words
medios
before
a los
you.
desafíos
We
de
want
esta
to
cumbre.
respond with all its
Nos
means
proponemos no
to the
defraudarles
challenges
como
of this summit.
ciertamente
We will
ninguno
not
de
let
los
you
organismos,
down,
la
just
OEA,
as
la
none of the
CEPAL
organizations, the
y
OAS,
la
CEPAL,
Organización Panamericana de
and
la
the
Salud que nos
Pan-American
acompañan en la
Health
mañana de hoy.
Organization will not
Así lo
let you
hicimos,
down.
señor presidente,
We
cuando
did
nació
so,
el
Mr.
banco
President, when the
en
bank was born in
1959 y a los pocos
1959,
meses
and just a
se
few months
constituyó la
later,
Alianza para el
the
Progreso y
Alliance
esta
for
institución
Progress
se
was set up,
convirtió
and this
en un
institution
poderoso
later became
instrumento de
a
cooperación con
powerful
aquella
instrument for
iniciativa.
cooperation with that
En los
initiative.
últimos meses, gracias
Over the
al
past few
apoyo de
months,
todos
thanks
ustedes,
to the
el
support of
banco
all of
recibió
you,
un
the
aumento
bank
sustancial de
received
capital
a
que lo
very
coloca
important
solamente en segundo lugar en el
which
mundo
makes it only
después del
second
Banco
in the world
Mundial.
after the World
Eso nos
Bank.
da una enorme
This
masa
gives us
y
an
capacidad de
enormous
intervención
mass and a
para
capacity
apoyar
for
las iniciativas de
intervention
esta
to
cumbre.
support the initiatives of this
Colaboraremos
summit.
ampliamente plenamente con la OEA y la CEPAL en todo lo que tiene que ver con la implementación de los objetivos de integración, y particularmente nos alientan los estímulos de la integración física, desde la hidrovía de Paraná-Paraguay hasta la integración energética en Centroamérica. Se abren oportunidades impresionantes de acción, de cooperación. Nos anima además el trabajar con el sector privado de la economía, tanto latinoamericana como de fuera de la región. Sentimos que el banco tiene ahí un gran desafío y es precisamente las enormes necesidades de inversión, particularmente en infraestructura, las que deberán potenciarse a partir de una nueva relación de cooperación de esta institución de ustedes con el sector privado del mundo y de América Latina. En el pasado hemos tenido una experiencia pionera de apoyo a los microempresarios, mejor dicho, a los empresarios de las microempresas y de las pequeñas empresas. Fueron ayudados cientos de miles de instituciones. Hoy queremos llegar a millones de microempresarios. Y el banco se propone organizar un fondo de $500 millones. Sabemos del mensaje social de esta cumbre. Y en ese sentido los recursos serán puestos a disposición de los grandes programas de educación y de salud que en los próximos años recogerán un volumen importante de recursos que serán no inferiores a los $5.000 millones.
that will not be less than $5 billion. The improvement in the quality of life, the environment, energy, biodiversity will continue to be supported by us as they require. And finally, being part of the modernization of the state, working with justice, with Congresses, with parliaments, with civilian society, that enormous source of energy that we find inherent in our society that can be revitalized along with governments in order to solve the social and economic problems of the region. And finally, working hand in hand with the OAS in human rights and in the strengthening of democratic institutions. Presidents and heads of government, this meeting is an historical meeting between the new Latin America and the opportunities for cooperation opened up by integration, by hemispheric integration. We want to build a Latin America that is economically modern, socially fair, environmentally sustainable, politically democratic, as we have all dreamed. And it is also an opportunity open to the United States and Canada for their own economic expansion and the generation of more jobs. This meeting that was held last night, in the framework of that enormous diversity and cultural diversity, offered us a unique vision of this Latin American today's world. That vision of what America's destiny was always meant to be, a diverse America, a land of peace, of tolerance, of respect for life, where the encounter of civilizations has been able to give us shared values that will lead us to make progress and achieve the social justice and democracy of our peoples, which were so difficult to reach yesterday, but so possible today and so certain for tomorrow. Thank you very much. Very good. He is fast. He goes, but he speaks beautifully. I'll never forget my test at State Department was a speech of his to take the staff.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cesar Gaviria, Secretary General of the Organization of American States.
I'll do it. You sure?
Unless you want to. It's up to you. Okay.
Señor Presidente Clinton y señora de Clinton, señores jefes de
Mr.
Estado y de
President
Gobierno,
Clinton, Mrs.
y señor
Clinton,
Presidente
heads of
electo de Brasil,
state, chiefs of
señor
government,
Vicepresidente Gore,
President-elect of
señoras
Brazil,
y
Mr.
señores.
Vice President Gore, ladies and
Quiero
gentlemen,
agradecer a los señores mandatarios de las
I wish to
Américas
thank the
por
leaders
la
of the
la
Americas
oportunidad que nos han
for
brindado
the
a las
opportunity
principales
they have
instituciones
afforded to
del sistema
the chief
interamericano
institutions of the
para
inter-American
acompañarlos
system
en
to
esta
have this
cita
opportunity
histórica.
to be with you at this
Y quiero,
historic
señor
meeting.
Presidente Clinton,
I wish Mr.
felicitarlo
President Clinton
por
to
su iniciativa de
congratulate you
reunir a los
on
líderes
this
del
initiative of
hemisferio
bringing together the
en esta
leaders of this
hospitalaria ciudad de
hemisphere
Miami,
in this
puente de enlace
hospitable city
de
of
las relaciones
Miami,
hemisféricas.
which is a point of liaison
Pero sobre
between the
todo,
North and South
sé que las
of the
gentes de las
Americas.
Américas,
But I know that the people
los
of the
millones de
Americas,
habitantes
the
que nacen,
millions of
sueñan,
inhabitants who are born,
sufren,
dream,
levantan una
work,
familia,
suffer,
y
raise
ponen su
families,
parte en el
and
enorme
play
trabajo de la
their
historia,
part in this
les
tremendous work
agradecen
of history.
hoy lo
Thank
más preciado que han entregado en esta
you
cumbre.
today for
Me
the
refiero
greatest prize of
a la
this
visión que
summit,
su
and
trabajo
I refer
aporta
to the
sobre un
vision
hemisferio unido,
of a
fuerte,
united America that
democrático
stands
y
strong,
encaminado
democratic,
hacia el
and
bienestar, el
working
progreso y la
towards
paz
well-being,
por la
progress,
vía
and
del
peace
comercio y el
through
desarrollo
trade
económico con equidad.
and economic
Las
development with
expectativas de
equity.
cambio
The
que generó este
expectations
encuentro
for change
han sido
generated by
superadas.
this meeting
Los pueblos de las
have
Américas
even
han
been
sido
surpassed.
oídos
The
y sus
peoples of the
anhelos
Americas have been
cabalmente
heard
interpretados.
and their dreams
Cada uno de ustedes
understood.
le ha cumplido a
Each of
nuestras
you
gentes.
has fulfilled
Señores
the
jefes de
hopes
Estado y de
of our
Gobierno,
peoples. Heads of
Ustedes han
state,
terminado de derribar
you have
el muro que tanto ha distanciado el
just
norte del resto del hemisferio. Con
breached
esta
the
cumbre,
wall that separated North from South in the Americas.
Con esta cumbre se cierra un
With this
capítulo de
summit,
nuestra
we
historia
close a chapter in our
caracterizado por la
history
desconfianza.
marked by
Atrás
distrust.
queda la época
Behind
en la
us
que
lies
nuestro
the period
destino
when our
estaba sujeto al
fate
vaivén de las
was
urgencias
subject
de
to
la
the
Guerra Fría.
vicissitudes of the
Antes,
Cold War.
el miedo sirvió de
Before,
catalizador de la acción
fear
colectiva.
was the catalyst for
Estábamos
collective
unidos
action.
porque
Today,
teníamos
we
un
stand
enemigo
together
común.
because we have a common
Ahora,
enemy.
nos
Today,
convocan la inspiración de los valores compartidos
we are called
y
upon
los
by
urgentes
shared
retos
values
comunes
and urgent
que
shared
afectan a
challenges
todos los países
that
por igual.
affect all of our countries
Esa
equally.
identidad fundamental
And that
ha propiciado el
common
entendimiento
purpose has
y ha
made it
hecho de esta
possible to
cumbre
achieve a better
un gran paso hacia
understanding.
adelante.
And thus this summit is a great
La
step
declaración de
forward.
principios
The Declaration of
contiene una visión
Principles
integral del hemisferio
sets out an
que queremos
integrated
construir.
vision of the future we
Ella
wish
se
to
puede
build.
sintetizar
This can
en
be
algunas pocas palabras:
summarized in few words:
democracia y desarrollo
democracy
sostenible,
and sustainable development,
integración económica y cambio
economic
social.
integration and
Pero
social
esta
change.
declaración no es un
But
simple enunciado de
this
ideales.
declaration is
Se ha
more than a
definido
mere
también un plan de acción detallado
announcement of
que
principles. There's
asigna
also an action
responsabilidades
plan in detail
concretas
that
y
assigns
define los
specific
instrumentos de
responsibilities
coordinación
and defines the
necesarios
instruments of
para hacer
coordination
realidad
that will be
las
needed
metas propuestas.
to realize the
Esta cumbre
proposed goals.
nos aporta una visión
This summit has
pragmática
given us a
de la América
pragmatic
posible.
vision of the possible
La comunidad
America.
hemisférica
The
ha
hemispheric
aceptado la
community has
responsabilidad colectiva
accepted the
de
collective
defender la vigencia de la
responsibility to
democracia
protect the
y de sus
relevance
instituciones,
of democracy
de los
and its
derechos
institutions,
humanos
of
y
human
del
rights
pluralismo
and
en el
of
continente.
pluralism in this
La
hemisphere.
pesadilla totalitaria
The
que han vivido muchos
nightmare of
de nuestros pueblos
totalitarianism
será
suffered
por
by so
fin
many of our
una
countries
época
will
superada
at
de la
last
historia.
be
Los
a
golpistas
finished part
saben
of history.
que los pueblos del
Those who
hemisferio
would promote
no se quedarán
a
solos
coup
en
d'etat
la
know
defensa de
that the
sus
Americas
libertades.
will not stand alone as they seek to protect their freedoms.
Y lo que es más trascendental,
And more
en ninguna otra
importantly,
región del planeta
in no other part of the
vivirán
world
tantos millones de
will there be
personas
so
bajo el
many
amparo de las
millions of
libertades individuales
inhabitants
y
under the
colectivas
protection of
inherentes al
collective
sistema
and
democrático.
individual rights which
Por
inhere
otra
in a
parte,
democratic
de
system.
esta cumbre de Miami
Moreover,
ha
from
surgido
this
una voluntad
summit in
renovada
Miami, we have
de trabajar
taken
unidos
a
para
renewed
superar los
resolve to
retos
work
que
together
enfrentan
to
las
meet the
Américas.
challenges
El
that face the
terrorismo,
Americas.
el crimen
Terrorism,
organizado,
organized
la
crime,
corrupción,
corruption,
el narcotráfico,
drug
la
trafficking,
contaminación ambiental
environmental
podrán ahora
pollution
enfrentarse con la contribución
can all now be
solidaria
faced
de todos los
with-
miembros de la
in the
comunidad
unity of all of
hemisférica.
the members of the hemispheric community.
Ustedes han recogido el llamado de los más
You
olvidados de las
have
Américas.
taken up the call of
angustias
those most
han
forgotten in
estado
the
aquí
Americas.
presentes.
Their anguish
Los
was
esfuerzos que
heard
cada
here.
país hace
The efforts
para luchar contra la
undertaken by each
miseria,
country to
la
fight
discriminación y la
poverty,
pobreza serán
discrimination,
ahora
and extreme
enriquecidos
poverty will
por el
now
compromiso
be
colectivo
bolstered
irrevocable
by the
por la
collective and
educación y la
irrevocable
salud.
commitment to health
Y ha
and
sucedido
education made
algo
here.
fundamental en materia de comercio.
Something crucial
Sin
has
duda,
happened here in the
el
area of
proceso
trade also.
económico más
Unquestionably, the most
significativo que ha
important
vivido el hemisferio
economic
en la última
process
década
of the
es el
hemisphere in the last
florecimiento de una
decade has been
multiplicidad de
the
acuerdos de
flourishing of a
liberación comercial
multiplicity of
e
trade
integración
liberalization and
económica.
economic integration
Más de
agreements.
20 acuerdos están
Over
actualmente en
20
vigencia.
agreements are now in effect.
Y aunque todos estos son pasos
And
decisivos en
although
la
these
dirección
are all
correcta,
decisive steps in the
hasta
right
hoy
direction,
existía una gran
until today
incertidumbre
there has
sobre
remained
el
great
futuro
uncertainty
de la voluntad
about the
colectiva de la
final
integración.
future of the collective
Ustedes, señores
effort toward
presidentes,
integration.
han dejado el camino
chiefs of
allanado.
state have
Se ha
traced the
optado
path
por la
for this.
convergencia y la
You
armonización
have opted for
para
convergence
construir
and
lo que será
consensus to
el área de
build
libre comercio
a free
más
trade,
grande del
what will
mundo.
be the largest
El
free trade area
compromiso
in
de
the world,
construirla
a commitment
coloca al continente a la
to
vanguardia
build
en
it,
la
puts
economía
the
global.
continent in the vanguard of the global
Ustedes
economy.
Han reafirmado en esta cumbre de las
You at
Américas
the Summit of the
su
Americas
confianza
have
indeclinable
reaffirmed
en el sistema interamericano,
your staunch,
en los
unwavering
mandatos y las
faith
serias
in
responsabilidades
the
entregadas
inter-American
a la
system,
OEA,
in the
el BID,
responsibilities
la Organización
given to
Panamericana
the
de la
American
Salud
Development Bank,
y la
Pan-American
CEPAL.
Health
Se hace
Organization,
palpable la
CEPAL, the
voluntad
OAS.
de
In
hacer
this
de
is
nuestras
palpable
instituciones
the
el
resolve to
corazón de la
make of
acción
our
colectiva,
institutions the heart
el
of this
punto de
collective
encuentro
body,
de
the
nuestras
point, the
aspiraciones,
meeting point of our
para cumplir
aspirations.
con las trascendentales tareas que se nos han asignado.
Carry out
Es
the
evidente
very
que
important
ustedes
tasks that have been
esperan
entrusted to
una
us.
OEA
It is clear
distinta.
that you
Ya no
expect
se
from
trata
us a
solamente
different
de
approach.
ofrecer un foro de
It is not
discusión
only
política.
to offer
Es
a
también
forum for political
indispensable
discussion.
colocar a la
What is also
organización
necessary is
al
to place
servicio
the
de nuestra
organization
agenda,
at the service of our
reorientar sus
agenda,
recursos
to
hacia las
reorient
prioridades
its
expresadas por los
resources
señores
to
mandatarios
the
y
priorities
enfocar todas nuestras
outlined by the
energías
leaders
en
and
alcanzar
to
las metas
bend all of our
señaladas
energies
en la
to the achievement of the
declaración
goals set
de la
out
Cumbre
in
de las
the
Américas.
Declaration of the Summit of the Americas.
Señor Presidente, cuando pienso en los
Mr.
días que
President,
vivió
when
hasta
I
hace unas
think
semanas el presidente Aristide,
the days of
así
President
como su
Aristide
pueblo
until very
durante tantos y
recently,
tantos
and
meses,
his people, how they
y
lived
cuando lo
for
veo
so
aquí
many
sentado
months,
entre
and when I
ustedes,
see
dedicado de lleno a la ardua
him
tarea
seated here among you,
de
already
reconstruir la
involved in
vida de
the
una nación
arduous task
atormentada,
of rebuilding the
sé
life
que la
of
visión
a
que hoy
tormented
han
nation,
plasmado
I know that the vision
descansa sobre
that
cimientos
you have
fuertes.
adopted today is
No
grounded
obstante,
strongly
el compromiso
in
que
principle.
tenemos en la reconstrucción de
Nevertheless, our
Haití
commitment to the
debe ser
reconstruction of
apoyado todos
Haiti
los días
must be
por todas las
supported day
naciones
by day
aquí
by all
representadas.
nations represented here.
El espíritu de la solidaridad
The
y la
spirit of
unidad
solidarity
interamericanas,
and
que es la
American
razón de
unity,
ser de la Organización de
which
Estados
is the
Americanos,
reason for the existence
nunca
of the
ha
Organization of
estado
American
más vivo
States,
que ahora.
has never been more
Ustedes
vigorous than
nos han dado un
today.
nuevo horizonte,
You have
una
opened
nueva razón
horizons
para
for
la
us, given
esperanza.
us a new reason
Muchas gracias,
for hope.
señores presidentes y
I
primeros
thank
ministros,
the chiefs
en
of
nombre
state,
de
presidents,
los
prime
millones de
ministers,
habitantes
on behalf
del
of the
hemisferio
millions
americano.
of people in the American hemisphere.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Aristide of the Republic of Haiti.
Excellence, President Clinton,
Your Excellency, President
Madame
Clinton, and Mrs. Clinton.
Excellence,
Your Excellency, Vice President Al Gore,
distinguished chefs d'État et chefs
distinguished
de
heads of
gouvernement,
state and heads of government,
Monsieur le Secrétaire d'État, Monsieur le Secrétaire de l'OEA,
Secretary General of the OAS,
Monsieur le Président de la BID,
President of the IDB,
Mesdames, Messieurs,
ladies and gentlemen,
j'ai l'honneur de vous
I have the
saluer au nom
honor
de la République d'Haïti
of greeting you on
et
behalf of
de
the
vous
Republic of Haiti
adresser nos plus vives
and of extending
félicitations.
to you our warmest
J'ai
congratulations.
l'honneur de partager
I have the honor
avec vous
of sharing with you
nos remerciements.
our gratitude.
Félicitations et remerciements à vous, Président
Congratulations and thank you to you, Mr.
Clinton.
Clinton.
Félicitations et remerciements
Congratulations and
à
thank
vous
you
tous.
to all of you.
Aujourd'hui, je viens
Today,
partager un pain
I
de
have
bonheur,
come to share with you the bread
le bonheur
of joy,
de la République
the
d'Haïti.
joy of the Republic of Haiti.
Si nous sommes heureux aujourd'hui,
If we are joyful
Certes.
today,
c'est aussi
certainly
grâce
it is
à la
also
résistance
thanks
de la première
to
République
the
noire
resistance
du monde,
of the first black republic
mais
of
c'est
the world,
aussi
but
grâce
it is also
à la
thanks
communauté internationale,
to the
à
international
vous, en
community
particulier,
and to you
Président Clinton.
in particular, President Clinton.
If you go to Haiti today, you will see people smiling while we are the poorest country in the hemisphere. And some people could say, how can you smile while you are so poor? And we say we are happy. We are happy because we have hope. We have hope because of what happened on September 19, 1994, when the US troops arrived in Haiti to implement the UN Resolution 940 with the multinational force. There we see the weapons protecting lives, not killing lives. That's why the Haitian people open their heart, welcome you, welcome the multinational force, and sing their happiness day and night, because since then we are living in peace, and there is no happiness without peace. That's why, as I said, we are poor but happy, and we thank you for that. On October 15, 1994, while in Washington, I was ready to leave with Secretary of State Christopher, so many senators and congressmen from the United States, and so many friends from the United States. While we were leaving to go to Haiti, I said, the restoration of democracy will bring reconciliation, justice, peace, and respect for every single citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, now, being back here, I can tell you it's not a promise, it's not a dream, it's a fact. It's a fact because we are moving through a process of reconciliation, putting together political leaders, putting together rich and poor, the private sector, and the members of the government. We are rebuilding our nation, knowing that there is no future for us without reconciliation. That's why I said we are happy, because we realize how it's great to see rich and poor, members of the private sectors, political leaders, and the government building peace, moving through reconciliation, paving the way for a better future. If now someone would say, well, is it enough to feel happy? On behalf of my nation, allow me to say, for us, yes. Someone could say, what else? Don't you need food? Don't you need jobs? Don't you need money? Of course we need. Because we are sure that having this peace, moving through this reconciliation, having the support of the international community, we will have jobs which will be giving food, and it's a matter of time. Now we are happy. Tomorrow we will be happy, because we are not alone. We are moving with the international community. We are moving with you, President Clinton. You made a success in Haiti. The international community made that success with us, and we can tell you, we trust you, We believe in ourselves, so we will continue to keep our commitment moving through reconciliation and peace, and there is no way for us to lose that historic chance which we have in Haiti to rebuild our nation. What is going on to Haiti today reflects what may happen in the world. When in the world people have money, they can feel happy, but it's not enough to feel happy. Without peace, you cannot feel happy as a people. You can be rich, but first you need peace, and we have that peace in Haiti. Without reconciliation, you can have development, economic development, but it's not enough to feel happy. In Haiti, this deep spirit of reconciliation leading us makes us feel secure, because we will not let anything divide our country anymore. We have to transcend, and we are transcending. That's why we feel so secure facing the future. When the poorest country in the hemisphere is talking this way through me, be assured we are not swimming in illusions. We have the roots of a deep commitment in our hands. We mean what we say, and we will be moving with the international community, with the most powerful country in the world, telling how it's possible to change that world, to make it better, building a new world order. Alone, Haiti could never do that. We are not alone. We are with you. We are with all of you. Because of that, we feel we are strong. We cannot move alone. Secondly, we are proud to see how we can be poor, but at the same time we can be rich. In terms of human resources, we are rich because we reject idea of violence. We are rich because we reject all kind of project of vengeance. We are rich because we know without this capacity of transcending, building bridges among groups, among people, among nations, there is no way to face the future with hope. And in Haiti, we are committed to move this way, and that's why my message, in addition to be a message of grateful, saying thanks to you, it's also a message of hope rooted in a deep tradition of non-violence, fed by the spirits of peace, reconciliation, justice, respect. President Clinton, I had the opportunity to spend more than 2 years here, and now being back home, leading my people in the light of this reconciliation, allow me to thank you for what I could learn here in your country. I learned how it's beautiful to work together, opposition parties, those who are in power, working together. I learned how it's beautiful to see the private sector, rich people, helping to create jobs for poor. And I'm proud to say now in my country, we have among the richest Haitians working with us to rebuild the nation. And as a matter of fact, there are some of them who are in my delegation here in this summit. I thank you for that. compañeros, amigos, jefes de
Friends,
Estado,
colleagues, heads of
al
state,
estar aquí con ustedes,
in being here with you,
me siento feliz
I feel happy
y orgulloso.
and I feel proud.
Orgulloso porque tengo delante de mí
Proud because I have before me
la oportunidad
the opportunity
de salvar con ustedes
to save, along
un
with
país.
you, a country.
Un país que ha
A country
acogido
that
a Simón
has
Bolívar.
sheltered Simón
Cuando
Bolívar.
Pétion, el presidente haitiano,
When Pétion,
después de nuestra
the Haitian
independencia
president
que ocurrió
after
en
our
el año
independence
1804,
in the year 1804,
tuvo la oportunidad de acoger a Simón
had the
Bolívar,
opportunity
fue un honor para
to
él.
receive Simón
De ahí,
Bolívar. It was an honor for him.
Una tradición de
And
solidaridad
from then on, we had a
entre
tradition of
haitianos
solidarity
y
between the Haitian
latinoamericanos
people and the
nació.
Latin
Hoy
American people.
quiero caminar
Today,
con
I
la
want
bandera
to
de
walk
esa tradición de solidaridad,
under the flag of that tradition of
agradeciendo
solidarity,
no solamente a ustedes,
thanking not
sino
only
a
you,
todos
but
los
all
latinoamericanos
Latin
y nuestros
Americans
hermanos y hermanas
and
del
our
Caribe,
brothers and sisters in the
porque
Caribbean.
para nosotros en Haití
Because for
no hay
us in
futuro
Haiti, there is
sin
no
esa
future
solidaridad.
without that
Gracias
solidarity.
por haber mandado
Thank you
a soldados
for having
para
sent
ayudarnos en
soldiers
Haití.
to help us in
A causa
Haiti.
de eso,
Thanks to
espero
that,
que dentro de un
I
mes
hope
más o menos
that in a month, more or
tendremos
less,
elecciones
we will hold
para fortalecer
elections
la
to
institución
strengthen
democrática.
the democratic institutions.
A causa de la presencia
Thanks
de la
to
fuerza
the presence of the multinational force in Haiti, where we have had the opportunity to share with you that bread of hope, that bread of faith, faith in the future, faith in democracy, faith in ourselves. I feel proud and joyful in looking at tomorrow as a servant who, besides having learned from the continent, now can feel united to his people and proclaiming to all of you, come to Haiti. See us in Haiti. Stay with us, where you will have the chance to see for yourselves the poor people of Haiti, but a poor people that is rich, that is joyful, because, as we like to say, we are walking through reconciliation and solidarity to go from misery to poverty with dignity. I would like to finish by saying once again a word to those who are living in the United States and who live Spanish and who speak Spanish or who speak English.
We have here 1 million Haitians. They love United States. They are grateful to you. They are proud to be Haitian. And they are doing their best to go back to Haiti, rebuilding the nation, preparing the way to welcome U.S. citizens, friends as tourists or as those who want to live in Haiti. It's a way to thank all of you on behalf of the Haitian community. It's a way to thank the relatives of the U.S. soldiers living in Haiti now for a while with us, hoping not only we will have the opportunity to welcome you to Haiti, but also the opportunity, maybe we never know, we wish it to welcome one day President Clinton to Haiti. You will be welcome. You will be home. People from the U.S. Congress, Democrats, Republicans, you will be welcome to Haiti. We are happy to have a great ambassador in Haiti, Ambassador Swing. Is helping us preparing that great day and that great day will be every single day when we'll have to welcome you to this beautiful land. Once again, thank you, and as you could realize, I didn't want to bring any paper to me because I thought the Haitian people could just open the heart to talk with you, and I did the same because in the heart we meet the source of love. In the heart we meet the source of sincerity. Love for you, sincerity with you, all together we will be rebuilding a nation which is hope for the entire world. Thank you, President Clinton. It's a new way to build a new world order. Because of that, on behalf of my people, once again, allow me to say, we love you. We are waiting for all of you to visit us in Haiti. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you very much. First, let me thank all those who have spoken before. I thank the Prime Minister and the Presidents, the distinguished President of the Inter-American Development Bank, Secretary General of the Organization of the American States. I thank especially President Aristide for his moving remarks, and I thank all of you here present who have supported the multinational effort to restore democracy to Haiti. We come here to begin a new era, an era of real promise. When Vice President Gore and I asked the American people to give us a chance to serve, we relied upon two phrases that we said over and over again. One was, put people first. The other was, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. In this meeting for these days, we have put our people first, and we have thought about tomorrow. We are bound together by geography, by history, by culture, but most important now by shared values, a ferocious devotion to freedom, all our people, and a determination to preserve the natural world we have inherited and that we must pass on. We have tried to give life to these values at this summit by agreeing to create a free trade area throughout our hemisphere, to bring together our nations to improve the quality of life for our peoples, and to strengthen and make permanent the march of democracy. These achievements have been given concrete expression by our commitment to negotiate with specific steps a free trade agreement for a free trade area of the Americas by 2005. This is more than words. This is a commitment to deeds. Free trade in our hemisphere has been talked about for years, but because of this process we launched this weekend, it will now become a reality. Free trade will yield dramatic benefits in terms of growth and jobs and higher incomes. It will permit us to pursue economic opportunities and at the same time to reaffirm our commitment to promote the rights and interests of our workers so that all our people have the chance to benefit from free trade. I couldn't help thinking when President Figueres was talking about the gross national product measuring everything but what is most important to us, that is true, but that unless we attend to the health of our economy, the things that are most important to us are more difficult to achieve. If you think about how many millions of people in this hemisphere, including in our country, are working harder today than they were just a few years ago for lower incomes. If you think about how many millions of people have less security in the face of the bewildering changes in the world we live in, what it means is they have less time for their families, for raising their children, less time for leisure, less time for citizenship, less time for learning in a calm and open atmosphere what the major issues of the day are. And there is not so much room in their spirit for the clear head and the generosity it takes to be an effective citizen in a strong democracy. So that all these things we care about, that we want for our people, require us to do our best to make sure that they can be victors in this great cauldron of change that is bringing on the next century. We also vowed to do our best to make our governments work better, to protect our democracies by making sure we could do the job we're supposed to do well and that we stop doing things we shouldn't be doing, to protecting human rights, to fighting illicit drugs and international crime, to rooting out corruption. And we agreed to pursue vigorously sustainable development. In a way, sustainable development is an unfortunate phrase because it has so little poetry about it, but the meaning is very profound. It means to me that we must pursue short-term goals consistent with our enduring values. It means we must pursue individual opportunity consistent with our responsibility to our larger communities. It means we must share in the earth's bounty without breaking our bonds with Mother Nature. It means we must take for ourselves in ways that leave more for our children. It means we must expand the circle of those who are able to live up to their God-given capacities: the women, the indigenous people, the minorities, the poor children of this hemisphere. For all these commitments, I thank you, all of you who have come here representing all these nations. The agenda we have embraced is ambitious and worthy. We have actually committed ourselves to 23 separate and specific initiatives and more than 100 action steps, protecting the diversity of plant and animal species, phasing out lead and gasoline, reducing infant mortality, improving education and health care. Our goal is to create a whole new architecture for the relationships of the nations and the peoples of the Americas, to ensure that dichos become hechos, that words are turned into deeds. So as we come to the end of this historic Summit of the Americas, as we proclaim the dawn of this new partnership, as we say we have done this to put our people first and we have kept our eye on tomorrow, let us remember that the road ahead will be full of challenges and difficulties, and that beyond all the specifics of what we have done, perhaps most enduring is the friendship, the spirit of trust that has been built here. There is truly a spirit of Miami. And in future years, when the difficulties mount up, when it is difficult to sustain the hope about which President Aristide spoke so beautifully, may future leaders remember the spirit of Miami. O Espíritu de Miami, l'esprit de Miami, el Espíritu de Miami, the spirit of Miami. Thank you all, and God bless you. Now we will sign the declaration. If they will bring it to us. Here it is.
The leaders will now sign the Declaration of Principles and the Plan of Action of the Summit of the Americas.
Prime Minister Byrd of Antigua and Barbuda, President Caldera of the Republic of Venezuela. President Menem of the Argentine Republic, President Lacalle of the Oriental Republic of Uruguay. President Balaguer of the Dominican Republic, Prime Minister Manning of Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Arthur of Barbados, President Venetian of the Republic of Suriname. Prime Minister Esquivel of Belize, Prime Minister Mitchell of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. President Sanchez de Lozada of the Republic of Bolivia, Prime Minister Compton of St. Lucia. President Franco of the Federative Republic of Brazil, Prime Minister Simmons of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Prime Minister Chrétien of Canada, President Fujimori of the Republic of Peru. President Frey of the Republic of Chile, President Wasmosi of the Republic of Paraguay. President Samper of the Republic of Colombia, President Pérez Valladares of the Republic of Panama. President Figueres of the Republic of Costa Rica, President Chamorro of the Republic of Nicaragua. Prime Minister Charles of the Commonwealth of Dominica, President Cedillo of the United Mexican States. Prime Minister Ingram of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Prime Minister Patterson of Jamaica. President Duran Ballén of the Republic of Ecuador, President Reina of the Republic of Honduras. President Calderón Sol of the Republic of El Salvador, President Aristide of the Republic of Haiti. Prime Minister Brathwaite of Grenada, President Jagan of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
I was just going to say, plug it in, skip 50%. Yeah. It'll happen.
President De Leon Carpio of Guatemala, President Clinton, and Vice President Gore of the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the plenary session of the Summit of the Americas. Please remain in your seats until the leaders and their guests have departed.
down. Sure.